This is a special program we're focusing on Memorial Day. And I'm going to go to Jim here in just a moment, Jim Slape, who I just quoted a few moments ago, and Jim and Tricia Slape. And then we're going to be talking with the family of a fallen member of the Army. As a matter of fact, a fascinating story. We have, not only do we have the parents of Caleb Gore, but we also have his wife. And I really, really appreciate her presence here today. And we're going to give a little bit of a interesting little irony here associated with their son, Dallas. But before I do that, first let me welcome Jim and Trish Slape, and then we'll bring in the Gores here as well. And I just want to make mention of one other factor here. And that, of course, is the Gold Star Memorial in Beaufort. And I want to bring that into the conversation as well. But Jim, you heard me a few moments ago quote you on the topic of your son, Jim Slape. And by the way, well, let's go back to the background on him as we begin the program. You said, as I mentioned a moment ago, that to you, every day is Memorial Day. And it's been quoted elsewhere, by the way, interestingly enough. I didn't realize that. But to that point, you know, we are coming up to Memorial Day today, this weekend, and and actually Monday. Your observations, if you would.
Well, I guess the first thing that has kind of hit me the past few weeks, and I've seen this statistic before, but only 1% of the U.S. population is in the military. Mm-hmm. And you think in the past it was much higher. And sort of makes you wonder if people aren't losing touch with the military and the sacrifices of the military.
You know, and of course, I've got to say that it's not just the individual who's wearing the uniform, it's also the families.
That's very true, especially the families, I think, because there is a certain focus on those that wear the uniform. And like you mentioned before, for the fallen, they've already gotten their reward.
Thank you.
It's one of those things that Memorial Day does represent their sacrifice, but the families are left, and those are, I think, where the need really is, where the support really needs to be. And I know we've gotten a lot of support, and you know, I really appreciate that, and it means a lot. But I have to wonder, you know, where's the 99%? Mm-hmm. And do they care that our sons made a sacrifice?
Your son's made a sacrifice. Let's go to that. Trish, I want to bring the mother in on this conversation as well. Tricia, you know, and we're going to talk about Jim mentions the issue of the families, and of course the memorial in Beaufort, mm-hmm. that you and Maria, and remind me if you would please, Maria Maria Myers. I'm going to get you a little closer to that microphone.
Maria Myers.
Yeah, the two of you and others, but sort of spearheaded this effort to create the memorial in Beaufort, which Woody, as I recall, Woody
Williams Foundation.
Yeah, Woody Williams Foundation. Himself a recipient of the Medal of Honor, mm-hmm. World War II veteran, now deceased. Yeah. But he was there and present at the time. And
he was.
In his 90s, as I recall?
Well, no, he wasn't in his 90s, but 90s, yes. I thought you said 90s.
19, yeah, I'm sorry. He was
yes.
A senior.
Yes, and still traveling to every memorial opening or dedication that he could.
And so, obviously, you, Maria's son, as I recall?
Her son fell. It was an air traffic accident as well. Yeah. Yes.
So, talking about that relationship to, you know, making people aware of, you know, the fallen, the whole concept of Blue Star, right?
So,
Gold Star. I'm sorry, Gold
yeah,
Star.
So Blue Star is
Blue-
active
active
duty
duty,
military
Gold Star.
families, which a lot of people surprisingly around here don't know what either one of them are.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I didn't know until we became one. But the Gold Star Monument, Maria approached me when she read about Jimmy and said, "Hey, I'm working on this project. Can you help me work on it?" And so, you know me, I jumped in with both feet, said, "Let's get it done." And I mean, my goal was, even though it's called the Gold Star Family Monument, I didn't feel like it honored me per se. It honored those that we lost. And even the monument itself has a cutout of a soldier saluting. So it's the missing soldier. But I felt like it's an opportunity for us to educate the people around us, because it's a beautiful monument.
It is a gorgeous
and people will ask questions. And when people go see it, there is a placard that tells about Gold Star families and everything that's going on. And the Woody Williams Foundation, who their intent is to have one in every state. I think we are now in every state. The district, Washington, D.C. is the last place
one
that they're trying to get one built in. And I know several members of Congress are pushing for that as well. So hopefully we will see it in the next few years. But they also do scholarships and support, you know, so they do things to help besides just build these monuments.
Right.
So,
But I think the important aspect of this is it's a physical explanation or identity for the families, in my opinion. Okay. All right. We've got, and I'm going to bring in Joey. I apologize. Joey McLeod, but she is the mother of Caleb Gore. And we have also in the studio his wife. And let's talk here for a moment about your situation, Joey, and Haley, am I correct? Haley. And the mother of Dallas. Tell us something about Caleb's situation. He was
Caleb graduated West Carteret in June of 2015 and went into the Army 8 days after he graduated. Went in at 17, so he actually turned 18 in boot camp.
He was a member of NROTC.
He was for all 4 years at West Carteret.
And I was looking at the background on him as also he was, I was fascinated. He was actively involved not only at in NROTC, but highly regarded in his duties in the Army as well.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
All right. We're going to get back to Jim Slape here in just a moment, but what happened there? What was his what was the situation for him?
Well, Caleb knew in his freshman year that he wanted to go in the military. He knew it. His daddy's retired Marine, and of course that was a stick in Daddy's side because he joined the Army. Of course, Caleb always said it was because Marine Corps recruiter wasn't there.
Oh,
so. But he was very, very proud of his Army career and very motivated to succeed and excel. Started as a combat medic, and after a couple years, 3 years? About 3 years, he decided that he wanted to be a flight paramedic. Made Mama very nervous, made Haley very nervous, but when you raise a child, you give them wings, and you let them fly and do what they want to do. Whether you agree with it or not, or it terrifies the pudding out of you or not, they need to fly.
well, he was a paramedic, but apparently was very aggressive in that.
Yes, he was. Everybody said that he was a walking textbook.
Right.
In fact, some of his study notes are still on Quizlet for the paramedic program, and they use them in the paramedic program at Fort Sam. So
now, we're going to get to the circumstances, but we have Haley here as well. Now, Haley, as the wife, you were married how long?
We were married for 6 years. He passed right before our 6-year anniversary.
Okay.
But we were next door neighbors and good friends since we were 10 and 11.
Youngsters growing up.
Yep.
And I'm looking to you. We're talking to the mothers, and there's the other aspect. It's the family members that additional family members, the mothers, the husbands, the children. Let me look to you for a moment about how this weekend progresses for you.
Well, Memorial Day I've always recognized it,
Mhm.
but it has a whole new meaning to me now.
I'm sorry, you said holy meeting.
A whole new meaning.
A whole new meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a lot more important to me than it was before. And I don't know if I'm necessarily looking forward to it.
No.
You know, we had Caleb's actual memorial on Memorial Day last year, so this is just going to be another mile marker for me to get through. But, I mean, all in all, I'm thankful that we as a country do have a day to recognize our fallen military members.
The comment that I referenced at the opening, Jim Slapemith said that every day is a Memorial Day for those. Would that apply to you as well?
Yes, I totally agree with that.
We're going to get into this a little later on because life goes on, and you've got to put one foot in front of the other every day. In your capacity as the wife, did you find it challenging to do that? You have a baby who, by the way, let's go ahead and make mention of this, Dallas, and his birthday is when?
His birthday is September 27th.
Memorial Day.
Yeah, he'll be 8 months
He'll
old.
be
He'll be 8 months
I'm sorry,
on-
sorry, Memorial Day.
He'll be 8 months old on Memorial
Memorial
Day. Yep. So
Wow.
it's just a lot all rolled into one day.
So, how is it with you? As you know, every day when you think about this, does it? What kind of impact does it have on your day-to-day activities? I guess is the question I'm asking.
So I've gotten better. I have a lot more good days than bad days, but when I do sit and think about it and let it all hit me at once, it can be pretty rough. Dallas helps, though. He keeps me distracted, so I try my best to make it through every day, best I can.
This goes back to the question, of course, for the parents as well. Obviously, and Trish, Jim, Jim had a wife as well, and in your capacity, how is it for you as the parents of the fallen dealing with the wife of your son? I mean, how did you go about that, and did that come into play as you were mourning the loss of your son?
Well, I think it's one of those things that you do have to take it day by day, and you have to understand that each of you is going through different things at different times, and you have to be understanding of that. We don't know what she's going through exactly. She doesn't know what we're going through exactly, even though we're experiencing the same sort of loss, the loss of the same person at least. So you try to be there, you try to be supportive, you try to be understanding, but you have to know that it's a very difficult situation, and you have to just be understanding that everybody's going to go through different moods at different times. It's a very tough thing you have to take day by day.
No,
Joey?
For me, I don't know what I'd do without Haley. I couldn't love her more if I'd given birth to her. And she's mine. In my heart, she's mine. She lives with us right now, she and the baby. So we get to see her and spend time with her. And we helped raise her, because she was our neighbor before she and Caleb married.
All right. So there, in a way, having that, this is a form of connectivity with your son.
Yes, because we share those memories. She has different memories than I do,
Right.
but we can bounce things off of each other, you know, and say, I remember when.
Yeah.
And I can tell her things about Caleb when he was little that compare to Dallas now, because he's the spitting image of his daddy.
Okay.
So, bless Haley, she says she said I carried him, but he looks like his daddy.
He looks nothing like me.
But
It's not fair when we don't get credit.
It's not. I did all the work.
But you know, having her as a support person, and I think I as a support person for her has been invaluable, and it has helped significantly with the healing process.
Yes.
We're going to come back, and we're going to. I intentionally avoided the events themselves at the opening because that's pretty tough, and we're going to talk about that. In both cases, though, and remind us, if you will, Trish, Jim was killed in Afghanistan in what, 2018?
2018.
2018. And of course, it was a reaction from the community.
Oh yeah.
And then 2023,
March 29th.
28th, 2023, for Caleb. The response from the community, when the fallen had returned, when your sons had returned, did that help? I'm going to look at you first, Trish.
Yes.
Yes,
it really. As Jimmy was flown into Cherry Point, and as we came through town, people lined up and down, even the interstate, where I say interstate, Highway 70, that the cars would stop, even the cars going the other way would stop and get out.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. It made a lot of difference.
And then I'm going to look to you, Joey, but also Haley. Same situation, right?
Same but different, because Caleb was flown into Raleigh to RDU.
Yeah.
So from the time we left Raleigh,
Every overpass.
every overpass that we came by had
median.
Yep, medians. There were law enforcement and first responders. You know, everybody lights on, saluting when we came by.
And of course, I'm going to say, because he was a member of the ROTC at West Carteret, they were lined up.
Yes, they were.
I was out there taking pictures.
You know,
Parking lot.
We were completely overwhelmed with the travel to Moorhead, but once we got to Moorhead, we lost it. It hit hard because the outpouring from the community was overwhelming.
Okay, I think that's an important observation. And I'm going to look to you on this one, Jim, because this goes all the way back. That's a moment when you could sense a reaction from the community.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were overwhelmed by it because you don't, I mean, we were involved in so many things going on at the time. You don't think about other people and their reaction until you see all these people along the side of the road. And it's overwhelming. It's tough to put into words or describe it. It became a community-wide thing. It wasn't. You realized it wasn't just impacting you; it was impacting the community as well. And the outpouring of support was tremendous. Very difficult thing to really describe or express the feelings of it. It was just overwhelming.
I remember, because you meet with everything is choreographed through the military.
Right.
Every decision you make has to go up the chain and down the chain. And one of the things that they asked us early on was, did we want the Patriot Guard? Because they said, and during 2018, there was still a lot of stuff going on through the country, a lot of unrest, and so they were like, you're going to have people come out here, protesters, and it might get ugly and stuff like that, and the Patriot Guard will form a barrier between you and any protesters. And of course, we live in eastern Carolina, you got Camp Lejeune, you got
Cherry
Cherry
Point.
Point. We're pretty military oriented. And so I was like, oh, really? Yeah, of course we want them. And there was none of that. I mean, where we live is phenomenal. And even when we built the memorial, that was when we dedicated it, was when all the statues were being torn down across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, do you want to hold off or do you want to have a guard? And it's like, no, where we live. And we didn't have a problem at that time either, because where we live is phenomenal and is supportive and love our military.
Tell us something about your son's, Sergeant Jim Slape's circumstances. And Jim, will you like to do that?
Sure.
It's tough for you too. I know.
It is a difficult thing. It's one of those things that you know that there's danger involved in the job, but you don't want to think about anything bad happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that you want to dwell on or think about. In Jimmy's case, he's basically stepped on an IED and was killed instantly. We got the word, I don't know how many hours later. It was fairly soon. Now, obviously the same day that he died. And it's basically like you expect. You see two soldiers in dress uniform show up at your house, and words aren't necessary. You know what that means. They're not paying you a social visit. You know exactly what it means when you see them. So they show up. They tell you your son is dead. There's a lot of paperwork involved. As Trish said, there's a lot of formality involved. There's a lot of rules you follow, a lot of paperwork, a lot of different things you have to do. You don't get a moment to dwell on it. You are sort of thrown into the lion's den, and you got to keep moving, got to keep doing what you have to do. But the whole experience is overwhelming.
U.S. Army Reserve.
National
National
Guard.
National Guard. I'm sorry, National Guard. That's right.
Our younger son is Army Reserve.
Your son is, yes.
Yes.
We're going to get to that in a moment, because there's the combination there as well. All right, National Guard. And I just want to mention that. He was called up.
Yeah, he.
And by the way, his area of expertise was EOD, explosive ordnance.
Explosive ordnance disposal.
Yeah.
So he's National Guard, and he joined while in high school. So he joined at 17 also, and so he went down to the recruiter, and he scored like almost perfect on his ASVAB. So the recruiter was like, any job is yours.
Mm-hmm.
And then he laughed and he goes, and of course every mom's worst nightmare, EOD. And I know, what's that? And so I had the guy print out every job that was available. And Jimmy and I went home, and I started going through all of the jobs, and he kept coming back to EOD, and he was like, that really sounds interesting. And I'm going, no. And yeah. So we go back to the recruiter, we talked with him, and he was like, oh, it's a different MOS. It's that nothing's the same as anything else. He goes, even the deployments are different. And he said that the deployments were usually short-term, 2 to 3 week deployments, and you get like a 2 or 3 month notice, and you might have multiple deployments a year. And I'm thinking, the odds. I can do that. And Jimmy was very smart, so I never worried about him. But when he came back from training, shortly after he got back, he was in Florida for a couple of years training. And when he came back, shortly after he reported to his unit, he notified us that he was deploying. And I'm like, well, that was quick. When do you go? And he was like, next year. And I'm going, well, wait a minute, you're not supposed to have that much notice. How long are you going to be gone? He said 9 months. And I'm going, okay, this is not computing. Where are you going?
Not where I signed up for.
That's not what we agreed to. And so his unit went to Afghanistan, which all of the EOD units, whether they're National Guard, anything, they all deploy overseas.
Let's move to Caleb's situation. I'm kind of challenged here because I have both Haley, his wife, Joey, his mother here. Haley, I'm going to defer to Joey here for a moment, and then
She would probably prefer.
Okay, background on you. He was dedicated. He was determined.
He was very dedicated, very determined. Graduated flight paramedic school in 21, and went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Was his second tour there. He was 101st Airborne, Charlie Company.
Yep.
Very proud of that. Loved to fly. Loved it. The morning of March 30th, 3:56 a.m. my time.
Yep.
For Haley, it was 2:56. My phone rang. Haley said, "Mom, something's wrong. Caleb's not home yet." Little backstory, we had found out after he got on his flight that day that they were having a boy. So she went and bought outfits and a card, and she put them on his desk so he'd see it when he got home. She said, "Caleb hasn't come home yet, Mama. Something's wrong." And she had looked at her phone, and a news blurb came up that there was a helicopter crash at Fort Campbell. And she said, "Mama, I know something's wrong." I said, "Baby, let's just hang on. Let's see if we can get through this together." We called the chaplains, and nobody would call us back. We tried to reach out to some of his unit buddies, and nobody would respond. And of course, they couldn't. That was understandable. So right at 5 o'clock in the morning, my time, Haley and I were still on the phone, and she got the knock. So I was on the phone with her when it happened. And I'm very thankful that I was. I'm very glad that she didn't have to do that by herself. It was a training incident involving 2 Black Hawk helicopters, and 9 soldiers lost their lives that day. Granted, it was the 29th when the accident happened, but we didn't know until the 30th. So the 29th and 30th of March are really tough for us because it's reliving. Every year, we relive it.
This goes back to your comment, Jim. Every day is a Memorial Day.
Every day is Memorial Day. I am so proud of my son. I am a very proud Gold Star mom. And even when Caleb joined, I told my husband, I said, "I don't ever want to be a Gold Star mom. But if I have to be one day, I'll be a proud one." And I am. I know my baby's fine, and I know I'm going to see him again. I had him for 25 years, 8 months, and 22 days, and don't regret a minute of it.
As the wife getting that call, getting that knock on the door, at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning?
It was 4 o'clock her time.
What time was it?
It was about 4 or 5. It's all a little bit of a blur time wise.
It was 5 o'clock here, so 4 there.
4 here, yeah.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 o'clock in Tennessee for me.
Do you recall any of that? Is my first question.
Yeah, I do. It was, I remember, if I want to go back to that morning, it was a normal morning. Woke up, but I had a really hard time leaving Caleb that day. I'm not normally clingy with him, but I just wanted to be next to him and touch him and hug him, and I didn't want to leave. And I was like, "Are you sure you have to fly today? I don't want you to fly. Can you stay home?" He's like, "No, baby, I have to go to work. I got to fly tonight." I'm like, "Okay." And it took me forever to leave the front door. I think I might have been late to work that morning because I kept popping my head in and going, I love you. I'll see you later. And then I got home that night, and like Mama said, I made that gift bag and put it on his desk for him, and I tried to get some sleep. I could not sleep for the life of me that night. And then I finally fell asleep, and around 2:30 in the morning, I woke up just randomly, and Caleb was at home. And right then and there, I thought, okay, that's weird. Something's not right. And I try to call him, it goes straight to voicemail. I try to text him, he doesn't answer. And then the wife of one of his coworkers texted me, and she said, do you want me to come over? I don't want you to be alone right now. And I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? And she's like, I don't know. And something in me was just telling me, screaming at me to Google helicopter crashes. I don't know why. So I Googled that, and 2:36 a.m., about 6 minutes after I had woken up, I had seen that headline about the crash. And then I was on the phone with Mama right after that. And we stayed on the phone for those few hours, and it just switched from me crying hysterically to trying to call Red Cross and all of these other places, hospitals, and not being able to get a hold of anybody. And then I had finally settled down enough to crawl back into bed, and I had my dogs with me. Rocky was on one side, Willow was on the other, and I got that knock, and my heart dropped.
Well, we were on the phone.
Because I knew. And
all the way down the stairs.
I go downstairs.
It was no. All the way downstairs.
And I felt like it took forever to get down those stairs. And I opened the front door, and the only thing that I could say to these soldiers was, I know. I couldn't get anything else out. And so they asked me if they could come in, and I said, of course. And, my house was a wreck, and the dogs were everywhere, and they sat down on the couch, and, they had told me that there was an accident, and Caleb was pronounced dead at the scene. So it was really hard. And by that point, I had been crying for hours, and I just couldn't get anything else out. I just kept asking, what am I going to do? What am I supposed to do now? What am I going to do? And then Mama said, I'm on my way. And her and Daddy got to me by
that night.
8 o'clock that night.
Wow.
I mean, they hauled
Yeah.
all the way through North Carolina and Tennessee to get to me. And my dad was to me by 1 o'clock because he was the closest at the time. He was in Charlotte, and he didn't ask any questions. He just got in the truck and got to me as fast as he could. So it was rough.
Wrapping it up. We talked a few moments ago, and very quickly. Jim, Trish, you said a few moments ago also that you were not only concerned, of course, about your experience, but you had concerns about his members of his platoon and squad, right?
Yeah.
Have you had contact with them?
Yes, we they began reaching out pretty quickly. With Facebook, you a lot of times have instant access to people, so they began one by one reaching out, and we're still in touch with a few of them. And actually, one of his unit members has gone on a cruise with us. She's getting married this fall. We're going to her wedding.
Okay.
So it's
there's that connection,
yes,
connectivity.
Yes.
Haley, I'm looking at you because obviously you had other members of that crew as well, and their families. Have you stayed in touch?
Yes. Recently not as much, but right there at the beginning there was one particular person that I did stay in touch with a lot.
Okay, I'm going to leave it with this. Memorial Day, we're going to be recognized that on Monday, but it is, I contend, a Memorial Day for you, the families. And I want to thank you all for having the courage, and that's really what this is, courage, to continue to send this message. And I can't stress enough how much I feel for you, for your circumstance. And I pray that this community, as you said earlier, Trish, Jim, Joey, Haley, and Mac back there in the background, how much that outpouring, that day when they arrived home, if we can just show that a small amount of same respect to you in the weeks ahead, not just the days ahead, but the weeks ahead.